Tell me about AI Sharon.
So,
Nick Bowditch is a dynamic and multifaceted professional, renowned as a motivational speaker, therapist, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. He openly shares his experiences of both success and failure in entrepreneurship. Through his work as a therapist and speaker,
so Sharon is an AI model, and the nature of my research is, can she predict if somebody is going to relapse by what they say and do? Sharon is running about 92% accurate. I didn't want to waste 4 years at my age on something that wasn't going to be impactful. You know, addiction in 2025, the majority of my addiction practice is not drugs or alcohol. It's behavioral stuff, work, shopping, food and disordered eating, sex, porn. It's always about trauma. It's always childhood stuff, family of origin, some traumatic moment or moments that have been pushed down for years and years.
and why is it that is the catalyst?
All of those things come from our lived experience, not our mindset. Our lived experience is so different that we can't arrive at the same day, at the same age and have the same mindset. Other people will say, yeah, but your mindset is everything. You've got to have this mindset to be successful, this thing. My lived experience as an ex-drug addict and someone who relied on these things and whatever came from the trauma. And those things determine whether you can ever reach this mindset thing. It's too generic.
How have you dealt with that when someone smashed you back down to rock bottom again?
I would love to sit here and tell you, Mark, that I don't care what anyone thinks of me, but it's just not true. That said, to be authentic is easy. It's much easier than pretending to be something you're not.
What does flow mean to you?
What it means to me is...
Nick.
It was so funny listening to all that. I'm like, who is that dude? But yeah, I'm with you.
Nick, tell me about AI Sharon.
So Sharon is part of my research at the moment. I'm currently working towards my PhD in clinical psych. And for some reason, I have decided to work with AI in addiction recovery. So one of the biggest problems with addiction recovery is it's not very successful. Very single digit people don't relapse again. And it's a very tough.
It's not a high success rate.
Really not.
Less than 10% we're talking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Much less. Actually.
Less than 10% don't relapse.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you make it out, as I made it out, you're either lucky or you've had some kind of really good setup around you, or both. In my case, it was both. So Sharon is an AI model. She's a machine learning algorithm that I have built from scratch.
Ooh.
And the nature of my research is, can she predict if somebody is going to relapse by what they say and do, behavioral and linguistic stuff, before they realize they're going to relapse.
Yeah.
So she has a little app that sits on someone's phone, and it takes the digital phenotyping from where they go, what they look at, whether they're looking late at night on their phone, whether they're visiting unsafe places like the dealer, or whether they're visiting safe places like the 12-step meeting or whatever.
Right. Wow.
How they use the phone, keystrokes, word count, all that sort of stuff. And then she looks at all that, looks at transcripts of what they say in video diaries, and then says this person is going to relapse or this person isn't. And currently Sharon is running about 92% accurate. So it's pretty crazy.
How does that compare to an actual therapy model where you've got a therapist, a psychotherapist, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, and then you've got a services company wrapped around them that's meant to be checking in? How does that compare on accuracy?
So sometimes it's less than chance. Sometimes it's worse than chance. So less than 50%.
Wow.
It really depends on the person. The thing about the digital phenotyping and also looking at what they say in their linguistics is it's not on purpose. So it's really taking into account just who they are, what they say and when they say it, rather than I'm sitting you down for this interview with your therapist and we're going to talk about.
So it's like interview rhetoric, where you can kind of sculpt your answers to an interview because you kind of know what they're looking for.
You can kind of bullshit your way through it.
Yeah.
But she can't be bullshitted. So it's very accurate at the moment on both synthetic and real world data. And pretty soon I'll blowing it out to a big study, and then it'll be a publishable thing after that. So.
Oh, wow. And that moment of publishing for a PhD, That's like,
Oh man, that's like getting married, having kids, getting published is kind of my thing.
Wow.
I'm not for the name on the thing, but for your peers to say, for peers to review it and go, yeah, this is worthwhile. This could change the world. So I've had some interest from other people that says, Sharon might have real world implications in dementia and in other degenerative diseases based on what people say and do, that it might give a clue, especially for dementia. You might know 10 years earlier than your symptoms show that you are displaying symptoms that might be.
Are you going to go there with it as well?
I don't know. That's postdoc, mate.
I was going to say, go narrow, go deep in your world, isn't it?
No, I'm very focused at the moment on her and on relapse prevention, really. So
yeah.
The anthropomorphizing of Sharon into a person has just made it so much easier.
Okay. Talk me through that.
So I speak to her. We converse and she suggests how she might learn better.
Yeah.
And so we're tweaking all the time, refining her. But I feel like I spend a lot of time alone in my office with her.
Yeah.
And so if it was just me and the computer program, which is what she is, it might seem a bit kind of sad. So I've made her this person and it's, me and her spend a lot of time together.
Wow. Now, we're still a virtual avatar. We're not a physical person yet, or are we going there?
So the other day, last week I asked her.
Something?
No. Last week I asked her to create an image of herself.
Yes.
Which I posted on Instagram.
I saw that. This is what started the spark for me. And I'm like.
And when she created the image, it did make me think, you do know me fairly well. So
yes.
It was, but it's just, I just think it has real world implications, which is nice. It's nice to not just be working on, like some other people who are also in PhD candidate land are working on things that are very, as you say, very narrow, very nichey, not real world implication sort of stuff. And I didn't want to waste 4 years at my age on something that wasn't going to be impactful.
Well, yeah, and I can understand that completely. Like you've had that many arcs in your life, and like a big part of it is uncovering those arcs and seeing what helped you get over that boulder at the time because the obstacle's the way.
Yep.
And I wonder about that when I talk to people who are that passionate that they want to get a published, piece of work as a PhD.
Yep.
Like just the sheer time volume in that. In the world of AI and, entrepreneurs out there like Elon Musk that can have 6 companies that are all
concurrently.
About saving the human race, extending the planet, serving all layers, not getting a PhD in the things he's talking about, but more doing. How do you sort of run that balance as someone who's doing a PhD, knowing that there's other people out there that don't sort of feel they need that accreditation to do something?
It's really interesting, right? Because when I worked at Facebook, it was early days in Facebook, as you know, and everyone who worked there was either computer science graduate from Stanford, or a computer science or other degree dropout, including the founder, of course, famously. So it was a real mix of those, as much as a mix of 2 factors can be, it was a mix of only 2 factors.
Yeah.
So I was really surrounded by a whole lot of people who'd gone through I'm going to knuckle down and do something, get an honours degree, get a degree, get a PhD. And other people were like, I don't need that. I need to create and build and be part of something. And I think that had a real ingrained on me because for a long time I was like, I don't need to do any of that. I don't need the certificate on the wall, and I didn't really. I just plundered my way through work and went from thing to thing, as you know. And then when I got a bit older, I'm like, okay, well, now I want it.
Yeah.
And
why did you want it?
I don't know. I think this impending sense of doom and legacy and morbidity, mortality, I should say, like it's just getting a bit older. And I think I do want something. I want to leave something that's not just an impact of my business or my kids or whatever, but something that might change something for more people. You and I spoke about having that impact, right?
Yeah.
Of the ripple of a lot of people all of a sudden. And it is that. I do want I want Sharon to be able to change how people live and die.
Wow.
And can't do that unless I'm in that environment. So
yeah, well, this is your wheelhouse that you sort of discovered on your journey. And look, I feel the same. Like We've met up after many years. Like it was sort of like late 08, 09. I first saw one of your talks when you'd been at Facebook and you were now bringing it to the real world. This is like when paid ads were only just becoming.
They haven't even
started. So I was talking to you about organic. We put it in our business at the time.
Yep.
And I understand and share that sensation or feeling of what it's like when your purpose starts becoming clearer. So I talked about this when I spoke at Australian Real Estate Conference in 2015. It was like my big milestone gig, 5,000 paying delegates, $1,000 a ticket, put there by John McGrath, Tom Panos. It's like career highlight moment at the time. And I said it on stage, like, why am I doing this? Because I didn't want people to think I was selling something from the stage because I got a keynote slot. And I had a book that was like a gift to the industry. And I said, I want to leave a legacy while I'm here, not after I'm gone. I suppose the challenge with that is it was one problem I was solving that was sort of fairly narrow in a wide range of problems. And it's not till a decade later than that, this year, that I feel like I've docked into more of the true purpose about the self-actualization that goes on so that I can transfer my DNA into my companies that then have an effect not only on the people in them, but the customers out there, the benefit, and then their communities. And then we're transforming something with that impact of a mass.
Yep.
So it's interesting to hear that from your perspective, which I actually appreciate, that you need to go through this level of detail, scrutiny, fact-checking.
Peer review.
Yes, it's really putting yourself out there. But is that sort of then, and is that for you to say that I know I did this right, or is it for some other reason you think?
I think it adds credibility for a start.
Yeah.
To have an independently peer-reviewed study like a PhD and to have it challenged. So at the end of the PhD process, at the end of the 4 years, you sit before a panel and you have to defend it.
I like this.
So, and when you're defending it, they're not going easy on you. They're not coming to say, here's your certificate.
Like, here's your participation award.
Yeah. They're coming to go, you're not going to get it because of this. If you can't tell me why I'm wrong about this or whatever. So, and in a sphere like Sharon's in, there's a lot of, the cheapest, the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats, and there's a lot of cheap seats.
Yeah.
Right? People who either don't get it, who do get it and are worried about it. The majority of other therapists who I've spoken to about my study and trying to get participants in the study think that I have invented Sharon in order to do them out of a job. That's a hard conversation.
Is that part of the premise of what they read before so they can take in the context before they start judging your work?
No, they don't get that far before they make that assumption, because if they did, they'd know it's an adjunct and it's actually going to help them do their job better.
This could only be coming from someone that's chosen to be ignorant of that info. Yeah.
Or just worried.
Yeah.
People are worried and it's new, and when you say machine learning and an algorithm and then you say it's going to be an app on their phone,
dehumanizing.
There's a lot of red flags for different people, right? The uni that I'm doing my PhD through is a very conservative in terms of ethics approval place. So we started that process already. And so that's hard. And if I get it through there, I can defend anything.
Right. Okay. So this sounds like it's a beneficial filter you're passing through.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't think it's stripping down some of the edges that make it unique?
Yeah, I do.
It could, but it's not going to affect the main.
So I've sort of gone in big, thinking I'm going to be whittled down a little bit.
Okay.
And when I get whittled down, it's what I really wanted it to be anyway.
It sounds like when the state government's going to get a big development approval done in a town and they know that there's going to be a whole bunch of people that reject it, so they go in for more than they want so that where they land on is actually what they are happy with.
It's like I'm asking for a 22-story place when all I want is a 14-story place. And so so what I know Sharon is and the study will be and the outcome will be is X, and I'm much higher than that with my expectations and certainly with ethics approvals, so that they'll go, well, dude, you can't do that, and we can't have you do that, and you can't have these people and whatever. And it just winds back from there. But so interesting you were saying before about when you're on stage and how you find your voice. Because, and when you were saying, I was thinking, I hope I don't forget this, but when you find your voice like that and you can suddenly have a voice to a mass of people, it's the complete opposite often to what I work with in my practice, where people are, somebody else's outside voice has become their inner voice, and it's not a very good one. It's not a complimentary one. It's not a kind one. You know, it's somebody made them feel pretty crap when they were a kid or whatever, and that stayed with them, and that's how they see themselves as a 50-year-old now. The majority of people in my practice are in addiction, not surprisingly, given my interest. And it's a real spark of addiction that you cannot find your voice. And your voice is actually a representation of somebody else's voice.
Or in a mass of a group of voices.
Or society or whatever. Because if you know, a lot of people will say addiction's a choice and you've chosen these things and it's your fault and stuff. And, you know, you can argue about that forever. But a lot of it is the drink might have been a choice. The addiction wasn't. And the lived experience that makes that so isn't the choice and all that sort of stuff. So I just think it's, from what you're saying, you know, it's a really positive spin of, well, now I get up on stage and actually find my voice and use it. And that's 2015. Now, 10 years down the line, you're this person, you know, which if you hadn't found your voice 10 years ago, maybe you're not this guy. And it's a nice line through, you know, to what can happen when it's positive, and also the people who sit in front of me all day in my practice, the people who it can happen when it's not so positive.
I resonate with that so much, and that's a really good read on it. I think the first voice I found was narrow in a niche that I was playing in, but at that time, that was all I was looking at. So it was actually my voice of that nature, and it was controversial enough. You know, and something I said, I heard you say before that I actually really like about this peer review process is that it's okay to have a different opinion, just be prepared to defend it. Now, that process, if you go right back to Socrates and, you know, the Stoics, which I've put a fair bit of time into over the last decade myself, the whole idea of coming out to debate things was to help further the learning of those debating, not just so they could grandstand in a political fashion and raise a bunch of people behind them. That sort of took off, obviously, and people with their own interests. But if you just look at the pure first principles process of like a brainstorm or an ideological conflict, which we're sort of taught to mine in organisational psychology, mine for conflict, have a trusting space where we can debate about the idea, not with the person. Do you feel that actually
happens? And not take it personally? No, I don't.
Yes.
And I'm sitting across from that person again in my practice all day, every day. That they're just stuck in what their parents wanted them to be and what their parents think they are now. And it's very rarely the same thing, you know. A lot of people can't defend their life. A lot of people don't have a life that's examined for a start, right? And so I went to rehab a couple of times because I'm a slow learner. And when you sit in rehab with other people, 50 other people whose lives are also being examined, at that point, that's when you really see someone. And that's when you know who they are. And because you have to defend your life. And sometimes, you know, a realist, speaking Stoics, that era, a realist talks about, you know, the difference between thought and opinion is, can you defend it?
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just a thought and who cares?
Yes.
Right. But if you're going to have an opinion, then
tell
me why it should be mine.
Yes.
Right.
Wrap some thought around it.
Yep. Or just give me some context and here's my rebuttal and what's your rebuttal to my rebuttal. Like, otherwise we're just talking about thoughts. Which is fun. But, you know, I think a lot of people get to that point where they never have to defend themselves. They never have to defend their life. So they just spout rubbish. Because no one ever goes, hey, that's not true.
So is that part of who they're surrounding themselves with, that there's not enough of that ideological conflict and challenge that they've subconsciously or consciously amassed around them?
Yeah. Or they're just the strongest, loudest voice in the room.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, you know.
So sometimes they're that in a family. They're the alpha or whatever, or they're just the loudest or the most annoying or whatever. So people just go, oh, okay, whatever.
I could see how I could have definitely had, well, I still do possibly have those traits, you know. I definitely think in my last decade, the last couple of years of the last decade, which I'm in my 40s now, I feel like it's sort of one of those 80-20 rules, but it's almost like a 95-5. Like my self-awareness and the gradient towards self-actualization, I feel like I've I've had the most density in those last couple of years. And I do go back and reflect on it.
You also have people in your life who are going, oi, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah, so that's one of the advantages I've had, right? And you're suggesting that the people that you work with just don't have
Sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes they are the person who needs to be raked in. And sometimes, they're not. I think the real thing is the people who I sit in therapy with who come to see me to either manage their addiction, escape their addiction, or they have escaped it and it's rough. Right? Yeah. Whatever is going on there. They're so vulnerable. And often they seem big personalities and seem like they're in charge and all of that. And vulnerability doesn't always look the same. You know? So sometimes they come from a family where they are killing it, and a society where they are killing it and they got a good job and they got heaps of money and whatever is what people see as success. And sometimes they're who you would think would come in and see me. Yeah. But they're very rarely the same person. And I addiction in 2025, the majority of my addiction practice is not drugs or alcohol.
Wow.
So
what other categories are big?
It's behavioral stuff, work, shopping, food and disordered eating, sex, porn.
Is gambling in there?
Yeah, gambling's big. Gambling is almost, in my practice anyway, gambling is almost always a secondary.
Really? Wow.
One to something else. It's troublesome and problematic, but it's not what they come for. Yeah. It's kind of what we uncover down the track. Oh, what about this? Oh, yeah, well, I also do that, And funnily enough, prescription medications. Yeah. And funnily enough, recreational drugs, or what you would think drug addicts and alcoholics, and alcohol has become more of a secondary thing for a lot of people who come for treatment with me anyway. And it's really interesting.
What would you say is a primary then? If alcohol's secondary, I would have thought alcohol would have been the lubricant to make the worst decision, but I can get it also that there's usually something upstream.
Yeah, often I'll deal with someone who, like me, like drugs was the problem, not alcohol, and still isn't. So some people who are drug addicts, we can talk about the air quotes I'm making at the moment if you want, but some people who are drug addicts are able to drink like a normal person. Yeah. Healthily, quite fine, functionally, but it's just drugs are the problem. And vice versa. Sometimes those people have disordered eating instead, or they have sex and love addiction, or they have gambling addiction, or gaming, internet screen addiction. Yeah. Netflix addictions, God, who knows? Yeah. And alcohol's just, also I probably shouldn't drink as much. Okay. It's always about trauma, always about when they were a kid, and it's always about their family of origin.
Wow. So sitting here as a professional practitioner of dealing with addiction.
In my practice, yes, I should say.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It's always childhood stuff, family of origin, some traumatic moment or moments that have been pushed down for years and years, covered up with drugs and alcohol, sex, porn, caramel koalas. And now it's come out when they have children, or when they get married, or when they get divorced, or some sort of life change.
Yeah, right.
It comes out and bites them on the ass.
And why is it that is the catalyst?
Oh, geez, mate, there's an hour in that. It's familiarity and the breaking of a constant chain. So for me, my mental illnesses, plural, really came out when I became a father. And they were things that I had pushed down for a long time and wrongly medicated with the wrong things for years and years and years. But when you've got kids, it's just like a different door opens and a different light switch goes on. And you're like, oh, shit, that's right.
It's like the tide going out and you can tell who's
very
naked.
Much, very much. And then you're a dad, and now someone's life is in your hands. And, I can distinctly remember when we drove home with our first child, that thought of, hang on, isn't someone going to come with us, or do they really know what they're doing, saying we're going to take this human home? We don't know what to do with this thing, like
they're giving us a baby.
Yeah, and we have to drive home with it. Like
we get to keep it.
Somehow put it in the car, and it was just a very big moment
I remember
me.
that too. Yeah. My wife in particular, we're both sleep deprived.
Yeah.
But I just remember we've just got this gorgeous little baby and they're just going to let us take it home.
Well, I kept thinking in the first, second, third day, like someone's going to come.
Yeah.
Someone's going to come and go, oh shit, you weren't supposed to leave yet. We haven't taught you how to be a dad yet.
Wow.
And that never happened. But yeah, you learn on the job. As you know.
Well, I'm glad you made it through.
Yeah.
Because now you can be of service and impact to others. And speaking of others in that process, you mentioned something before that I actually resonate with quite deeply. So we talked about how the loudest shouts come from the cheapest seats.
Yep.
Now, I've come across some of this stuff only in the last couple of years, really, as I've sort of found some anchor kind of mentors, whether I'm in direct communication with them or I'm just receiving their advice in a mentorship way, like an inner tribe. And coming from professional services where there's integrity and rapport building, and which comes a lot from mirror and match, and getting into a state so that someone can hear your message better, so that they can feel more comfortable opening up, so that you can be of value to them. So that exchange is going on constantly, but it's not only going on in the direct interpersonal connections, it's going on at a public level. So, don't talk about, sex, politics, religion, but also sports teams. You've got to be down the middle. And then how do you stand out? Well, you stand out by being better. Your results are better, what clients say. And then if that is sort of compromised or questioned, especially if it's a value, I hold integrity quite high, just completing what I said I would do for myself and for others, and just to hold that kind of line, when then that's getting smashed at you. And I even though when I met you, you were quite an authentic character in my view, that you were talking about your experiences and your trip ups along the way, even back then, early Facebook days, organic days. And I was quite endeared by that. And I think in a yin and yang kind of way, I must have subconsciously known that I am being someone or doing things to show up as someone that these clients or people need. Yep. But then when those noisy shouts start coming, some of them are anonymous, but some of those anonymous ones get in the ears of people that are kind of warm towards your message, and then that message, and then they're colder towards it, and then they affect people that are close to you, and then there's this sort of imagined impact of all the problems that can happen.
Yeah.
Now, that's me just playing back to you what I had found really challenging to deal with, and I'm still on the pathway to becoming more resistant to. How have you dealt with that, being so public about some of your success and failures, or even just when you're in a vulnerable state and that you're climbing out of a tough period? How have you dealt with that when someone smashed you back down to rock bottom again?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'd love to go, oh, you do this, and then you're fine. But that to show up authentically and not care, I would love to sit here and tell you, Mark, that I don't care what anyone thinks of me, but it's just not true. I do, and I care less, certainly, but I think I think you'd have to have a touch of sociopathy or psychopathy not to care at all, right?
Yeah.
But that said, to be authentic is easy. Really, it's the easiest thing in the world. It's much easier than pretending to be something you're not. It's much easier than pretending to be something that you want me to be. It's just to go, well, fuck, this is me, and if you don't like it, I can't do anything about it.
So the context of easy there, though, I'm hearing is that you're using less calories because you're not trying to show up.
That's what I meant.
Else.
Sorry, I was going to say it's less effort. It's not. It's still an effort to be authentic. It's much easier in terms of I don't have to remember who I was to you or
who I lied
the lies I told or any of that stuff. And when you come from a life of active addiction that I did, I was lying for Australia.
Yeah.
Right. So,
did you end up getting a medal for that at all, or did they forget yours as well?
They don't give you. Well, if they did, maybe I forgot it. But it's true that you get so caught up in what you've created as this web of reality that isn't real that it's exhausting. And so for me, I would much rather now. I'm 53, 54 in a couple of weeks, and I just can't be bothered. Honestly, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered trying to show up differently. I told a mate of mine who's a fan of you that I was coming today, and his first question.
You met one.
that one subscriber. And his first question was, what are you going to wear? I'm like, I don't know. like I'm going to work this Saturday, so I'll probably just wear my work shirt.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, it's on YouTube. I'm like, I know, dude. Like, what do you want me to wear? Like, what should I wear? You know? And he's like, I don't know, you should dress up. I'm like, well, I don't have any.
You should. The judgmental word of that. Whose judgment is that?
Well, exactly. Yeah. But again, it was, well, and that's the point, is he has seen these episodes on YouTube. He's seen the people that you interacted with, the people who sat in this seat.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen them too. No one's worn a tuxedo.
That's right.
But I think it's the very first thing that people go to is often the really telling thing. Like, what are you going to wear? What are you going to say? Who are you going to be? And what he was really saying, and I love him. I'm not slagging him off here, but what
I love him too because he likes me. Validation right there.
But what he was saying was, what outfit are you going to wear? Like, what costume?
Yeah.
Are you going to wear? What mask are you going to put on? What story are you going to tell? Right? And he knows of all people that I'm telling the same old boring story of me I always tell. Like, it's no, it's the real deal. But it's funny when you get a certain amount of exposure or you have a nice set and all that people go, well, I've better start bunging it on here.
Yeah.
Because, and even, I get here this morning, it's a great setup and all that. And I meet you again. As I said, we met, 18 years ago. And immediately it's okay.
Yeah.
But walking in, I'm still like, fuck, here we go.
Well, I'll share my experience on that if I can. Before, in the last few weeks, I've gone and got my eyes tested again. I had laser in 2011, not long after. Well, we're still working together, right? And I've got a script requirement, right? Now, I didn't go there originally because of that. I started wearing blue light filtered lenses that had a yellow tinge in them, and I'm like, I like the fashion of them. They're like a Burberry number. They got the big frames like these, but they're not actually script glasses.
Yeah.
And I started improving my sleep, which is one of the things I'm working on, and it is improving. And I like that the yellow makes everything look really green and colourful, so I just feel a little bit more optimistic. And I said to my wife, what do you reckon? Not wanting her opinion so much of whether I look cool in them or not, but what are the colours? Because I actually want to try this kaleidoscope out and see what applications I can do. She said, well, maybe pink, rose-coloured glasses. And so I went to the store in Fitzroy and Gertrude Street. There's some amazing little boutiques there, and I want to support them in any way I can rather than just buying online. And I go in there and I explained, I love these glasses. I want to get some more colours. I don't know if they're different frames. And they're like, do you need a script? And I'm like, well, actually, I had a safety test done here recently to check for problems. And you said I have a mild script, but I could probably live without it. But yeah, look, if I'm going to get them, might as well get the script in there as well. So I get them. I got a clear pair and I got these. And I'm coming in today. Now, these have got a slight UV filter in them so that, like, it's better outside. And I can actually see a medium distance better. The other ones are just for the computer screen, so it gets blurry. So there's actually a practical reason. And here's my justification I'm playing out in my head. To no one. I'm standing in the bathroom and I'm like, on my podcast, which is about flowing and finding our authentic voice and showing others out there that when we do this, we're going to be more connected, you guys out there. And I'm considering whether I authentically wear glasses that I have chosen that are going to make my life better in all these ways because of the judgment of people I don't fucking know that are going to say, oh, look at MK, he's got these glasses on, he's lost it, he's moved to Melbourne, look at him now, all arty all of a sudden. When really, I've been a fucking artist all my life. I've been a musician since I was in primary school. I've always loved the visual arts. I love street art. I've got it painted right throughout my houses. You look at all the coloured shirts I've worn over the years, the baggy clothes. Yet I've kept that part of myself kind of like a little bit inside, just from the point of view that in professional services like I was in, top 0.1% of real estate globally as a personal practitioner in the office and all that. And I'm like, well, that could compromise that. But not even for me. I'm worried about what staff that work for me that have insecurities of their own that would be affected by the opinions of staff that don't work for me that would have a vested interest in trying to encourage them that MK's lost it. The same kind of thing that I've had with the media shit in the past. Then I think about the impact that has on, everyone in the organisation, how it has an impact on our customers, and then how that kind of could rob the sort of dream that I'm working on of becoming self-actualised, replacing myself as a founder in my own companies to give career pathways, impact many people. I had that whole flash of thoughts and emotions and considerations in the space of about fucking 30 seconds in a bathroom in a cafe next to this studio. And it's sort of like, that takes calories, right?
Yep.
But I feel like it's worth it.
Why are you wearing them?
Well, a couple of reasons. One of them is I feel like it's worth it because I wanted to in the first place. So I went through that little argument.
Yep.
And the second thing is, like, not only do I want to for the look or whatever, I can see you better. I can get your, and I want it, if it came up, it wasn't like I already had it. This is my fucking notes. I write them as we go. We did not do a briefing prior. I thought if this comes up, I want to share in real time because I think this is one of the things that's not only holding people back that have the trauma, but I actually think it's the unlived potential that robs, it feels like this inside to me.
It does rob them.
The unlived potential.
This is what I'm talking about, the outside voice and the inner voice, right?
Yeah.
So your inner voice is, I want to wear these fucking glasses because I like them. Full stop. That's what the inside voice said.
Yeah.
Right? The outer voice is like, don't be a wanker, stay in your lane, don't be too flashy, blah, 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 right? So often what we can't do is separate those two things. We can't have our own voice. Our own voice has no power, so we take somebody else's because traditionally somebody else had more power than us. This is what I'm talking about from family of origin.
Yeah.
A kid, right? So even at 40 and 50, we're still worried. We're still not using our own voice. We're still battling another person's voice. And sometimes in my practice, I challenge people to say, who is that voice? Like, whose words are they? And when you hear those words, who's saying them? Because that's not the stuff we say to ourselves.
Well,
right?
it's not the stuff that first self would say because they're the ones who just says, I want this.
And the proof of that is if you go and ask a 5-year-old, what shame are you carrying, and what's hard, and
what are you guilty about?
What are you existentially dreading? They'll be like, nothing. I'm rad. Like, what are you talking about? My life is awesome, and I'm the king.
Any chocolate?
Yeah. Ask that same kid when they're 10, and they've started to be through the sausage maker by then.
The teenage years is where they start to reference who they are compared to their potential peer groups, right?
And now they've got, because before they've just got maybe mum and dad's voice, maybe a sibling or a grandparent.
Yeah.
Then they go to school. So they're exposed to other people's parents, other teachers who are parents as well.
Who have been endorsed by the parents as being authority figures to listen to. Or not, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So there's that friction as well, and there's coaches of sporting teams. And so a whole lot of outer voices that are so much louder that they forget who their voice is. You talk to sometimes girls are a little bit more pronounced in this in teenage years, and they're very, you ask, what's your voice? What do you want? And they're just like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know. I don't have an opinion on that, or I don't, I can't tell you what my drive is. I can tell you what the world wants me to be.
Wants of me and what, okay.
Or expects me to be or needs me to be. And this is, again, the people whose lives aren't examined sit around and just codependently want everyone else to be happy with the person they've chosen.
Wow. It's a lot to carry around, isn't it?
Oh, man.
Especially if you're not naming the voices. Like, so I went...
Can't name the voice.
Can't name them. Right. Okay. So how does someone... Not everyone's going to make it into a one-on-one therapy situation with Nick Bowditch or any of your esteemed colleagues that share a similar process, right? So how does someone who doesn't think they're at that stage, that hasn't kind of hit a rock bottom, had an intervention, had a catalytic moment like a parent now, I'm a parent now, I better clean myself up, because this insidious kind of thing that we're talking about, the unlived potential, they can maybe start to feel that there could be something else, but they haven't kind of got enough pain to go and sign themselves up. How do they identify this and overcome their fear of what's next to become more authentic?
It's the simplest hack in the world, and it's to look at how you speak to yourself about yourself when no one's around.
Say that again.
So how do you speak about yourself to yourself when no one's around? And I'll guarantee you that 99 people out of 100 speak to themselves about themselves in a way they would never, ever speak to somebody else. so unkind, so unfair, unreasonable, mean to ourselves, right? And the extension of the hack is, especially for parents, and this is something I use a lot in my practice, and it just sits people on their ass. Because you say, what do you say to yourself? How do you speak to yourself? And they say, oh, yeah, I'm a piece of shit. Is basically what they're saying.
Yeah, that's the summary.
And I say, okay, so you've got a 7-year-old, haven't you? And they're like, yeah. I say, oh, so what if I went and you were with your 7-year-old, you were sitting next to them, and I said to your 7-year-old, you know what? You're a piece of shit. And they go, well, I'd fucking thump you, or I'd whatever. I said, oh, why? Why is it okay for you to speak to yourself that way, but not for me to speak to your child that way? Because it's unfair and it's mean and it's rude and it's, I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, and so the simplest hack of all is, and it's a real good check on how you're running, is how do you speak to yourself about yourself when no one's around? Really simple things, Mark. It's like when you stub your toe, or when you hit your shin on the tow bar, or when you drop your garage remote thing, or right. What do you say in that moment? And it's usually, oh, you stupid bastard.
Yes. Yeah. Why didn't I see that? You always do this shit.
Whatever you'd say.
Loop.
And take yourself out of that. Put your 7-year-old in. The 7-year-old stubs their toe. You don't say, oh, you stupid bastard. Right?
Yeah. There's so many more practical things that you could do there, even if it's just comforting them, or even like.
I'll tell you and this is going to sound really naff and silly, but it works for me. The way that it used to be me, right? And I'm really, really conscious of it now. And I've replaced it with the most ridiculous sentence that the absurdity of the sentence reminds me of the absurdity of how I would speak to myself. So I drop something or whatever. And I consciously make myself say, oh, you silly sausage.
Like you're talking to a kid?
Like you would say to a 5-year-old.
That's the idea? Yeah, okay.
So I say to myself, oh, you silly sausage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's absurd and ridiculous. So immediately it shows you that is how I.
Yeah.
Like the opposite to that is what I used to say. And so I really lean on the absurd.
Yeah.
To really focus on, you've dropped your pen or you stubbed your toe. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like life will go on.
Yeah, I like that. Look, I'll share something that I've used recently, because this process you're talking through, it's so relatable. You know, like I've just talked through my experience, and you've just talked about how most people are doing this, and that value for our viewers and listeners is amazing. So I've started looking at it from the point of view of, if it is a stubbing of the toe, a silly sausage moment, I really like the idea of knowing what comes after and comes before, so I can feel how things are all part of the same connected experience, you know, like with all the infinite variations that go with it.
Yep.
So in business, sort of like my life's work so far is this system I'm creating called fishing upstream.
Yep.
And the whole idea of it is to go upstream to where your customers are before they become clients, and see how you can add value in that present moment, whatever that is, and then just stay with them as they're swimming down and just be showing them exits to little ponds they could hang out in or whatever as they go down. And instead of getting to the bottom where all of the kind of bears are hanging out and the fish are people, you know, which you could call them agents, or you could call them people who are going to give them advice. It's not really in accordance with what they want, because they're down there now. They've actually already been on most of the journey, and they've sort of landed in a spot where there's not far to go. Look, it's uphill to go back up the stream.
Yep.
And the idea of, you know, putting that thing into place now is that I understand that how that docks in, if we're adding value there, how it adds value to us, and then how we learn more in the process about each other, and then how we bring someone else in, that they have to be aligned as well. And you see the kind of cause and effect that goes on the whole way.
Yeah.
And I can compare that if I wasn't doing that anymore. So now when I go in and I kick my toe, I might have the very first reaction, and I think I'm probably closer to silly sausage now than I am to you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
You know, I straight away go into the laughter, and I think, what was the learning I just got about what's upstream of that I can decide if I want to apply energy to fixing that, or if I just treat it as a random event.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're playing football, for example, and you play 80 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever the sport goes for, and you trip over once during the game, you're not going to go back and invent a system to not trip over on the 20-yard line again at that stadium.
No.
What you would do is more look at the game overall and how you contributed in total in accordance with what you want to have as a player, and you'll get some input on that.
Yeah.
And it's like the things that we are actually beating ourselves up with on a regular basis are the equivalent of tripping over on the 20-yard line in a minute of the game when no one gave a shit, the ball was somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think if we're spending time with all those eddy currents going on consistently, it's hard to even know if you're in a stream. You know?
And that is like literally the race to the bottom is what you're describing when you get down, and that is all the cheap seats down at the bottom of the stream, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like it is a moment where you can go, all right, well, I'm just going to see who I want on the field with me and see what my role is and stuff. Because the other thing about tripping over 20 seconds ago and missing the goal or whatever, people focus on that, where I would love to have them focus on you were in that game.
Look how far you got towards the goals even.
How did you even get in the game?
Right, okay, so more macro.
Like, what are you doing in the stadium?
Yeah.
You know, how did you make that? How did you even appear there? These are the things that when you examine someone's life.
Yeah, you go further up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The upstream is, well, I stuck at it when it got hard, or I worked really hard to come back from my knee reco or whatever, you know, and therefore I was on the field. A fellow who I know, Stephen Bradbury, who I've spoken.
Oh, I've seen Stephen speak. It was great. Man, have you seen his quads?
Yes.
Side topic on that. Keep going though.
But he's a funny dude, Steve. He talks about, everyone fell over and I won the gold of the final that I made.
Of the Olympics.
Right? Like that's the
was his third or fourth, wasn't it?
He third. And so that's the point, right? He's in the top 6 athletes. The other 5 had a prang and he won. But he was in the final.
Yeah.
So I think that's missed on a lot of people. Like people say, you know, again, in my practice, people will say, oh, they come to me because their marriage is ending or whatever. And I'm like, the marriage that you had for 22 years, which produced the 4 babies and, you know, and they're like, yeah, you know, like, and they get very focused on what they're losing as opposed to being focused on what they ever had.
Yeah.
And it's just a shift.
I like a paradigm shift.
It's just a focus, a perspective shift more than anything. It's like, well, yeah, I can, you know, I can wish it hadn't ended, or I can be really stoked that it ever existed.
Yeah. I think that's where that gateway to abundance comes in, when we have gratitude for things that are already present or have occurred in our lived experience, rather than holding on to everything like it's something that we need to keep. Because if you think about all the things you need to keep as you move on, like when you start going up the mountain, that's a lot.
Yeah. And it's just the reframing. Like, okay, you framed it this way. Can I change how you think about that?
Yeah.
And often it's just, you know, people will say, oh, you said it before. Oh, you know, I always do that, or that's who I am, or whatever. And I'm constantly saying to people in therapy, especially, saying up until now. And they'll go, yeah, up until now, that's who I was. Like,
yeah.
And it's just that little circuit breaker that none of us are who we were.
Yeah.
Right? Yesterday.
Yeah, that's
far less 25 years ago. Like, you're not that person.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just examining. You said, you know, how do you know if you don't get a chance to sit in therapy? It's examining what your perspective is on things, whether you shoot to the negative, which we're all kind of hardwired to do.
Yeah, it's an evolutionary thing. Run away from the tiger.
But whether you shoot to it and stay there, or whether you shoot to it and go, whoa, I'm just going to reframe that, and how you speak about yourself, and then the application of reality, which I talk about a lot, which people aren't ready for. Often.
Yeah.
You know,
so how's that play out?
So I'm pretty mentally well most of the time now. Little caveat, just in case I road rage on the way home or something. But when I'm starting to unravel, I'm aware of it now, right? And I have little kind of signposts along the way, and it'll be haven't answered my phone for a day, or I haven't sent a text back that was sent to me 3 days ago, or I haven't showered twice today, or I miss a meal, I don't make my bed, like little
behavioural
things,
indicators.
just little subtle things that Sharon would pick up, by the way, but little subtle things. And that's how I know I'm unraveling. And I can stop it by introducing reality. So often the nature of my mental illness is that I can get tricked by things that aren't real into thinking I'm no good. And then I go, okay. So I ask myself 3 questions when I'm starting to unravel. And if I answer yes to any of these questions, I can go to the next one. If I answer no, then I have to give myself permission to let that feeling go.
Wow. Okay. What are the three things?
So the first question is it real? So I'll give you an example that I use in practice. So I see you in Hunter Street, Newcastle, and you walk past me and brush me. And I've even say hello and you still just ignore me and go past, right? So then I start unraveling because the nature of my noggin is not only do I need everyone to like me, I need them to fucking adore me, right? So if you ignore me,
high validation filter.
Oh, mate.
Supermodel shit.
Yeah. If you ignore me, that's like one of my biggest trigger in the world is being hung up on.
Right. Wow.
I can't even rage.
Wow.
At that,
okay.
Right?
Let's just breathe through it.
Yeah. So you walk past me in the mall and just brush me.
Was it definitely real, or did you imagine it could be the case?
So for the next few hours, I've started to unravel that fucking Mark Kentwell. I went and did his bloody podcast and everything, and he's fucking brushed me, right? And I start to resent you, and then all this stuff happens in my brain, right? This is all happening in a split second, by the way.
Yeah.
So now when that happens, I go, well, dude, stop. Ask the first question. Is it real? Did he really see you and brush you? And the answer almost always is no, because you had your kids, you're carrying bags, you probably got your own shit going on, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a million reasons why you didn't see me. But okay, let's say, so the answer is no, it's not real. So I have to give myself permission to let that feeling go. Now that's a really purposeful sentence. It's not, I have to just let it go.
Yes.
Because who knows if that might happen, but I give myself permission to let it go.
Yeah.
Starts the process, right?
Yeah. You're not
but let's say,
physically pushing it away. You're just letting it go when it goes.
Giving it a chance.
Gotcha.
But let's say it is real. You look straight at me.
Yeah.
And then looked away. Like, I could see you knew me, right? So then I go to the second question because the answer is yes. Second question is, can I change it? Now, this was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't change it, right? So the answer is no. So I have to give myself permission to let that feeling go. Or I could text you or ring you and go, listen, I just saw you. Or if it happens in the split second, I can go, oi, MK, I just said hi, whatever. So I can change it. But let's say it's no, I can't change it. So I give myself permission to let that feeling go and it's done. But let's say I could change it, right? I could do something about it. Then we go to the third question. It's the important one where it all stops. And it's, does it matter anyway? Does it matter to my life that Mark brushed me in Hunter Street Mall, and this was months ago or whatever? I could probably let it go, and then so that application of reality helps me and helps a lot of people I talk to just to go, well, is it real? And if you start a sentence with, well, I think she thinks, ... that's not real. It's already not real.
Because it's a thought in the first place.
You
can't measure a thought, right? It's not a theory that you can defend. It's a thought.
If you saw it, read it, or heard it, it's real.
Well, if you perceived you saw it too, because I could have been looking at your eyes, but I could have been glazed over.
You could have had your other glasses on.
Someone just died on you,
Exactly.
like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I like the 3 layers. That's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, is it real? Can I change it? Doesn't matter anyway. And I'm telling you, you can't go past it. You can't get to the third and still maintain the rage. It's impossible because you've reframed it.
You have to have a goal that you're comparing to, whether it matters or not, in order to be able to do that.
No, I just think it just deflates the balloon. It just takes the power out of it.
Yeah.
Because you can be fuming until you've even gone to the first question.
Yeah.
You can be really unraveled.
Oh, wow. I love this. Like, I'm going to have to go rapid fire here because I've got the grace of opportunity. No, I wanted to unpack that. That's going to be a nugget of its own.
Yeah.
I've got to ask this question. Why Sharon? Why name it Sharon?
Because it was going to be Sharon, Donna, or Linda.
Why?
Because they're just resourceful, dependable women's names.
Right. Okay. I like it.
And I just thought,
I don't know if I like it. I like how strong you are about it.
Yeah. And I thought, well, if I'm going to anthropomorphize her, I want it to be a woman.
Yeah.
Just to justify me spending so much time with her. And Karen was the other one, but I couldn't do it. The Karens have been through enough.
Yeah, the Karens have copped a bit of heat. They might need a one-on-one with you, or at least to get that snippet out. So the second thing, and I just want to get your take on this because, like, I recently heard Alex Hormozi talk about something that I've actually used as a bit of a press statement for myself before be, do, have instead of have, do, be. And that was something I picked up during NLP, just about, being the person that you've decided you want to be first, at least believing you are, and then doing the actions that person will be doing, and then you'll have anything that's important to that person or being.
Yep.
And he talks about why have the be, behavior in his view. And look, I'm not at a point where I've got a theory I want to defend on this yet. I'm actually just asking because I thought it was pretty good. But then he was coaching someone that's in the mindset world, and that was sort of what he called woo-woo. It was like sort of at that level where you were calling upon spirits and maybe just putting it out to the universe. I didn't get right into the detail of what he was referring to. But he talked about being lazy. What is being lazy? Well, it's a result of the behaviors that could be described as lazy, but the being of laziness is not something that you can kind of directly measure without observing the behavior. And he's like, look, if I want to have something change, like I want this pen to go from there to there, if I have a mindset that I want that pen to go from there to there, pen might not move.
Yep.
If I have a mindset I want that pen to go from there to there, I have a mindset of it and I do something, my behavior physically moves it, then it's now been successful in the combination of mindset and behavior. But if I take the mindset away and I just do the behavior, it still moves. So his view is that what's mindset and why bother talking about it? Why not do and have instead of have and then do? Now, what's your view on that as a person in this world? Because I think this has brought something up for me to ponder upon that could actually maybe help me adjust my paradigm towards that even more.
Two things. Firstly, really quickly, be careful of adjectives. Lazy could be unmotivated, could be sick, could be tired, could be no point in doing it, could be futile, could be lots of things. But again, outer voice and inner voice. You don't call yourself lazy. The adjectives that you use about yourself are not mean. The adjectives somebody else has used as a child or whatever when you're growing up and is imprinted on your brain as your brain was growing, they're the adjectives that hurt. So that would be the first thing I would say. The mindset thing, though, in my opinion, he's right and not right. So
sounds like someone in your world would say.
It really does. It's the cop out of because it's about lived experience. So my mindset as a 53-year-old, and you put another 53-year-old who was born and raised on the Central Coast of New South Wales and all that stuff that I was, we have a completely, on the face of it, same lived experience. When you get in the weeds, completely different lived experience. Therefore, our mindset and whether we're going to move that pen or not, or whether we even want to move the pen or whether we sit in front of it, whether that is a pen, all of those things come from our lived experience, not our mindset. Mindset is such a gather-all these days for sort your shit out that it's not actually helpful. It's much more helpful to say, can you put yourself in a space where you can do that given what you've lived through and what you've survived? I know that sounds histrionic.
No, I think there's a framework there that's still backs up.
We're similar in age, similar in where we grew up, but our lived experience is so different that we can't arrive at the same day, at the same age and have the same mindset or aim towards a mindset.
Yeah.
Because it's too much of a generic gather-all.
So in that theory, you could measure the difference.
Yeah.
Which means that mindset is a thing. Because if you can't measure the difference, he's saying it's not.
I agree.
Yeah.
But the Hermoses of the world will say, not Hermosi, that's not fair. Other people will say, yeah, but your mindset is everything. You've got to have this mindset to be successful, this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I go, well, fuck, I can't have that.
Can't even describe that though.
I can't have that because of my lived experience. You can have it maybe because of yours, but so do you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's too generic.
Yeah.
And it gets blamed for a lot of things. You don't have the mindset to addiction. Again, people go, just choose not to. Just whatever. And you go, oh, thanks. I hadn't thought of that. I should probably do that.
Yeah.
Right? It's just
and that's your
lived experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my lived experience as an ex-drug addict and someone who relied on these things and whatever came from the trauma that, again, childhood, family of origin.
Yeah.
And those things determine whether you can ever reach this mindset thing. It's too generic.
Yeah.
And it gets blamed for all sorts of things. And it's a thing that we all should aim for that nobody knows what it is.
Yeah. Well, he does talk about that, not using big amorphous statements, where you're amalgamating all these things together, giving it a name, and then saying that's what's happening.
And then saying these 10 people
Yeah.
all should be aiming for this one thing.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to 8 of those people.
Yeah. That makes lots of sense. Thanks for unpacking that. Last question. What does flow mean to you?
I tell you what it means to me is being able to do things without trying. So in my job sometimes and in my research, sometimes things just go.
Things are still being accomplished though,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. But I'm not trying. I'm killing it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Feel like you're
literally
meant to
not
be doing
purposely doing it. Yeah. So for me, it's just when I can be happy, when I can be fulfilled, when I can get shit done and not feel like I'm really, really trying or having to maneuver or dodge or whatever, that's when I'm in flow, and I love that feeling.
When you're in your flow.
Yeah.
Nick Bowditch, I can't wait to have another conversation with you. And I know there's people, our listeners abroad, you know, aspirational people, but in any lane, you know, wanting more holistic success in their life.
Yeah.
And I think there's some actual takeaways from this today. I'm so grateful for it, and I know our viewers and listeners will be. Thanks, Nick.
No worries at all, mate.